all these tops are pretty huge for the day they're on.
Even these lowers,
bro,
look
like
at this.
this is impressive. And that's Blue Zushi. Like that, Blue Zushi doesn't yield like that. Like this is so impressive. I've been staring at this bud while you've been talking, I'm not gonna lie. What's up guys, welcome to Grow Room Weekly. This is Tim and Alex, and today we have a theme of light intensity from both under canopy and top light application.
Yeah, and so then at the end of the video, we're gonna kind of touch on a comment that you guys left before, kind of asking about the scale of the R&D facility and why we're doing certain things the way we are. So we'll go into explaining that, and so we'll catch you in the video. This is the bedroom. Everything got transferred in yesterday. Bobby's taking some light readings right now to go through and check where everything's at. It's at 45%, so it should be somewhere around like 380 to 400.
Ooh, you're so close. It's 350 to 380. Depending on plant height, most of them are they're pretty small, but yeah, you're dead on.
We're swapping pots. This one, they ran out of the normal pots that we were using, so we moved over to the white ones. They're the same size, but the profile of them is a little bit different. The soil sits a little bit closer to the actual base of the tray, whereas the Versace pots that we normally run have a little bit more of a gap towards the bottom. So also these clones, we had a little bit of delay in the transfer into room 2, which is our HPS room, just due to the fact of some construction stuff that we were working on cleaning up some of the wiring and just making sure everything's being turned over as these rooms come down. We're trying to do more and better improvements every single time. And so they did get, some of them did get a little bit taller than we would normally have transplanted them. Yeah, it's like about
they look good still.
It's about 4 days longer than it typically would be. But yeah, everything's looking super good in here. We do have some, the Blue Zushi that is going to be transplanted into room 2 in a few days. This run, we're probably going to do it around transfer in at day 6. They're 7 days behind the rest of the room because of that first day of them flipping over, but everything looks really good in here.
Yeah, and fun fact about that Blue Zushi, that's the competition batch for the Olympics in May, California. This room looks freaking great. We're loving having the chromas up top. We're loving having a little bit more spectrum control in veg. And the intensity from them is perfect for where we like to start and ramp up. So let's go, what's next? Room 2?
Room 2.
Let's go. All right, while Alex is fidgeting with GrowLink, it's day 20 in here. This is room 1. 5 minutes of far red before lights on and after lights off. So this is our first trial that we're doing that. These plants are a lot shorter than we wanted them to be, so I'll let Alex talk about what we did to manipulate and try to give them a little more runway for stretching by not using our under canopies.
Yeah, so we normally start like around day 4-ish to turn on the under canopies for the first time. In this room, we actually started them like day 9-ish, between day 9 and day 10, like halfway. The plants still didn't necessarily stretch. We were wanting to give them that vertical growth to be able to get there, and we lowered the top light intensity to be able to match. But even right now, I took some readings earlier today. It's sitting around like 700-ish, just due to the height of where the fixtures are at.
Are we at 100?
Yeah, we're at 100%. Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
So typically our plants are into this 4th trellis. We run 4 trellises because the guys actually believe it's easier to work around having the 4th trellis there than just the 3. But normally the plants are growing into this and supported by this, but they're not even touching it right now. So with the far red at the 5 minutes at end of day, we typically see stretching continue to happen until about day 18. They've been done stretching for 3 or so days now. They kind of stopped around day 17, and I haven't seen any more vertical growth from them. So due to that, we're kind of running low light intensity and having that constraint. And we've turned on the under canopies to hopefully get that vertical like expression from them. But yeah, we didn't really necessarily get that. The plants were really small coming out of veg. It was a last run with those older top lights in place.
Yeah.
And then also this room went in quicker than room 2, for example. But we wanted to allow the plants to do their thing.
Yeah, and like while we have short plants, the stack in here is really great. So you've done a good job managing. I actually was taking the measurement. It's like you said, it's around 700. And I was like, oh, no, you were just saying the irrigation's been tough in here to get it to bulk because it's not really calling for it, so you're not bulking. And I was like, oh, we'll just increase the top lights. But little did I know that we were already at 100%. So in situations like this where you have a smaller plant, just like Alex said, you want to leave the under canopies off and allow for that growth, allow for that stretching. If you turn your under canopies on, you're going to end up with a shorter plant because they don't need to stretch for that light. So we're still learning these rooms. Alex is doing a great job managing it. So while we do have smaller plants in here, smaller by like 50%, I'd say, like substantially smaller than we want, we have tons of bud sites. So at the end, you should jump up here on this ladder and look at the bud sites because it's pretty impressive for how small these plants are. And just the stack that we have. So great job by the team. These lights it's day 20, top lights are at 100, under canopies are probably around 80%, and they're still 40% red. So we're about to start ramping the red percentage, the 660 nanometer percentage on these. Blue Zushi is a couple days behind, right? 7 days behind.
Transferred in 8 days, so 9 days technically.
So yeah, it's only day 11 on the Blue Zushi, and it's ripping. It's actually the tallest plant in the room. So can we go see room 3 now? Room 3 looks so good. All right, room 3, I just looked.
40.
Day 40.
The Blue Zushi's day 32.
Yeah, so we've got half a room of Chanel, half a room of Blue Zushi. Blue Zushi's at day 32, Chanel's at day 40. We're entering the ripening stage here. Yeah, we've got about 12 days left.
5 minutes of far red at the end of day.
Oh man, I'm sorry. 5 minutes of far red on after lights off is what we're doing with the far red. That's the strategy. We're entering the ripening phase. I just gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite rooms so far that we've run here. It is absolutely huge in here, and the Blue Zushi looks massive. Like, this is the biggest Blue Zushi we've had. We've still got 12 days left on it.
Yeah, for day 32, it's crazy.
Insane.
Even the Chanel right now the yield on this is absolutely
I'm
nice.
super excited. So this is the mixed light room. It's a little tricky. The idea is to match the light intensity coming out of both the HPS and the LEDs. You want it to be an even demand on your canopy. This room is going to get a retrofit after the next run. We're going to be moving to some very, very cool top lights. But what we've done now is dimmed the HPS so that they can match the LED output. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're both not at 100% just to be able to match. They're anywhere between 750 and 850 right now. We could bump the light intensity up, but all of the HPSs are on the same control, as well as all of the LEDs are on the same control. And so we were wanting to just see how the environment kind of handled it having both HPS and LED, because the first few runs that we did in here, when we first took over, it was HPSs. We swapped them over to LEDs. So we did 2 runs of the high bay LEDs, and now we swapped over to them because we got the electrical constraints figured out. So we wanted to see how the ACs would hold up with these kind of changes, because it is like a lot of adjustments for what we have going on. Also, we were adjusting airflow. So it's really important to be able to match that. And that's why we kind of decided to do a Z only room.
Yeah.
We do have our tester tables where we have honey bananas and East Coast sour D, but we wanted to try a low intensity room for the first rip. So it's not, as dramatic of changes if we start noticing issues.
Yeah, and kind of talk about it, like all the genetics in here are super light sensitive. So being able to run a lower top light and kind of boost with an under canopy is very much the strategy in here. Yeah. So again, we could rip it harder on here from the top lights, but there really is no need to. As you can see when Alexis pans this, all these tops are pretty huge for the day they're on.
Even these lowers,
bro,
look
like
at this.
This is impressive. And that's Blue Zushi. Like that, Blue Zushi doesn't yield like that. Like this is so impressive. I've been staring at this bud while you've been talking, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, all of these side branches are just...
We're really excited about this room. We love all these genetics. These are some of our favorite to grow. Heavy Z, so they look a little pissed off most of the time after like day 20. But light intensity in here has been great. We're about 80% red on these guys, maybe a little lower.
I think it's 75.
75, so we're about to push this to 90% red for ripening and add the far red channel on during the day to kind of speed up that ripening is what we've noticed in other rooms. To be determined, but we have seen a benefit to turning on the far red for ripening weeks. I love this room. I don't think I have anything more to add except for, checkerboard, if you're doing it, make sure your output and your demand you're placing on your plants is the same from your LED and your HPS. It's very, very important.
When we're talking about demand too, something that we're looking at is we're seeing some signs on these plants as well. Looking at potentially making some nutrient changes just due to the lighting demand that we're putting on them. To a certain extent, like we were trying to get the baseline of everyone, get everyone trained up and hired on. Like you could only play with so many things without like straying too far from your baseline. And we didn't even have a full baseline because we had just taken over the facility. We're getting very consistent yields coming out of here and very like high consistent yields, and also the smokability on it.
Quality's through the roof.
Through the roof. And so we're really happy about how everything's been coming on. Now that we're starting to get it figured out, we're pushing things a little bit harder, either irrigation and dryback wise or light intensity wise. Yeah. And so we're really trying to figure out that perfect nutrient balance. Again, this is only, we took over in July, it's February now.
This is only month 8.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have for this room. Room 4, day 40, lots of Versace in here. Far red, 5 minutes after lights off only. We're about to turn it on during the day though for the ripening phase.
Perpendicular versus parallel
that's
trial.
Right. We're getting so close to the end of this trial and I'm really excited to see the data that comes out of it. We're still gonna have to run it back to get multiple runs on this, but it is very exciting to get that data because we run everything perpendicular because we know where we sit and we know what it does, but got to back it up with data. We understand you guys have been requesting that. So anyway, tell us about this run. Light intensity wise, where are you sitting?
Everything's about 950 to 1,000 PPFD. The under canopies, at first they were a little bit lower. We had a conversation a few weeks ago about raising them up. So we moved them up 1 click, and I think it does help spread to where those lower buds are at a little bit better. We're at the same thing, about 75, 80% red right now. Okay. Tomorrow is going to be defoliation in 3 and 4 for the heavy D-leaf. That's going to be my transition to ripening cues to start going back to generative. This room has been a struggle this run. There's 3 mini splits in here. One of them's down. We're not getting the best air circulation right now. And where this room CO2 wise has been pretty rough. And then also, it's been really, really hard environmentally. Not even counting that one being down at the beginning of this run. This is one of the only rooms that faces like exterior wall that gets really, really cold.
It's very cold.
And so,
not a lot of control there.
The DQs are also not in the room themselves. So we're dropping the hot air in, but the actual DQs themselves aren't in here, which have their own kind of heat output.
Definitely.
And so it gets really, really cold at night. Like early on, there was probably a 15 degree differential from day to night.
Yeah.
And so it warmed up for a couple weeks here, and now it's raining and cold again. So it's starting to get more drastic. We're having some color already start on this, and it's way more senescent than any other room at this point, just due to the amount of environmental stress. Also the same nutrient things that we were talking about figuring out in 3, we're also trying to figure out in here. This room originally, even when we took over, was kind of the worst performing room.
It was the stepchild for sure, but now it's one of our favorites for sure.
It's one of our favorites. Right now, I think it's gonna be definitely different during summertime, but it is winter here, and so it's definitely having a hard time keeping up, but the bud quality is still great.
I was gonna say, I was just about to say, like, I know all the, he just named, 3 issues that we went through in this room. Looks great. I saw this room 4 days ago, and I was a little worried about the size of it. Came in this morning, first room I went to was this one, and I was like, oh, you're turning a corner. So whatever you're doing managing wise and just dealing with the fluctuations that you have and the environmental stressors that you have, you're doing a great job with it. Buds are really like great quality, starting to already get some color, and we're about to turn on kind of like our ripening, set points, irrigation, lighting strategy to kind of pull that color even quicker. So I'm really excited about this room. The Versace tables look great. The trial tables, the first 4 look great, and then we've got these tall bad boys over here that Alex can go over, but we had to lift one of the lights just to manage that light intensity.
So normally, just due to the purpose of this room, this is supposed to be the double stack imitation. Before Faven was even like in the capacity that it is right now, before we took over this grow, we were managing a double stack actually. And so we have quite a bit of experience running multi-tier systems. And this room does kind of behave like a multi-tier, especially with the environmental things. Like most multi-tier customers that we talk about how difficult it is to homogenize their environment and how the top is completely different from the bottom.
Airflow, environmental swings, like all the above are pretty typical in a double tier. So this is very, very representative of that.
We're trying to manage these constraints, and we typically don't move up these lights at all. But on this 1K back here, I had to bump up the lights. It was required to be able to do it because they would have been growing inside and past it. Everything else we kept the same. So in the back, we're running the original Girl Scout cookies. Second, it's called Pink Tricks. It's a Mimosa LCG Blue Zushi cross. And then up front right here, we have the 1K. I have no idea what the 1K is. Last time it had a really good flavor profile and smoke to it, so we just wanted to try it again and see kind of what it did, give it a second chance. This was originally on the tester table in room 3. So was the Pink Tricks. That Girl Scout cookies is completely new to us. But yeah, everything in this room is going super, super well. I'm really happy with how it's looking for how many constraints we've had to deal with.
I think it looks great. We appreciate you tuning in. Room 4, that's all we got.
This is room 2. Today is day 3. We're doing 5 minutes of far red at the end of day. Everything's really, really nice in here. These plants did get a little bit delayed coming into the room just due to some of the construction stuff. You might see in the background that there's a lot less wiring, and everything's been cleaned up. When we came into the facility originally, everything was kind of just strung up and zip tied against everything else, and so
it was chaos.
It was chaos, and aesthetically not pleasing, but also just working around the rooms wasn't great. We also removed all of the wall fans in here, and we racetracked the big fans at the top. So everything's moving around nicely. There's no need to have those. We're talking about light intensity and like control, when to kind of bump up your top lights, when to turn on your under canopies. And I think this is gonna be really good to see the difference between room 1 and here in 2, because these plants were a little bit delayed coming in here. The size of them is bigger than what we transferred room 1 in. And so we're gonna turn these lights on a little bit earlier. Typically day 4-ish is when we have been starting with our larger plants. They're able to take that light intensity increase. That's normally when we would bump up these top lights, but instead we're gonna turn on those under canopies, add that, and then slowly alternate every single week or every couple days between adding a little bit more top intensity and adding a little bit more under canopy intensity. Yeah. These plants are pretty robust and have a really nice structure, so we're gonna be able to increase that light intensity a little bit quicker than we would necessarily recommend, but we're also very comfortable with these rooms and comfortable with our processes to know that the plants can handle that.
Yeah, and you nailed it. It really comes down to overall the rigidity and the strength of those plants. Not so much on an SOP standard, but are those plants hardy enough to handle under canopy? And these ones, because we're getting our veg room super dialed in, they can handle it much more. So we're gonna kick these on probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Probably gonna kick these on tomorrow at 40% intensity and 40% red. And then right now the top lights only are sitting about 680, so we can actually probably bump that up because of how much light they were getting in the veg room. But again, we take a slow and low approach. We don't like to ramp anything super fast unless we need to control the height. So slow and low, like he said, we're gonna alternate days on ramping up under canopy and top lights and just make sure we get to that perfect point. We may not get to 100% on our HPSs because these plants are probably gonna stretch a lot, but in an HPS room, we know we want to try to be at that 100% to get that full spectral output. But anyway, I think you nailed it. It comes down to, rooms like this, the plants, are they hardy enough to handle the under canopy? If they can, and they're big enough, go ahead and turn it on at a low strength. I think that's perfect.
A lot of people want a direct SOP on this is how you do this on this day every single time. Something I think Tim and I try to do is lean on a little bit more of a holistic approach and not just give the most direct SOP of you have to turn it on this day. Let your plants really show what they want. If you are increasing your light intensity and you're seeing a little bit of stress, slow it down a little bit. There's a good point to start for your baseline that first time that you would increase your top light intensity, turn those under canopies on, and then gradually increase them. But let your plants tell you if it's too intense, and if you have a gut feeling being like, hey, these are handling all of this light perfectly fine, I feel like I could ramp them up quicker, try it. Everything's about like having a feel for your rooms and being in touch, especially if you're swapping your rooms over to adding these new fixtures, adding these new levers to pull in there. Let the plants show you what they want or need. These two are going to be our Versace. The one on the right is going to be the Chanel, and Beautiful. The one on this empty table right here, blue Zushi over in the veg room, that are going to be being put in.
We already cut the holes of where the plants are going to be. This is dropping that first trellis and putting the plants in between the trellis to get that really, that first support line on the plants with under canopy, so you don't get a bunch of floppy buds on your lights. So it looks great in here.
Yeah, it looks great.
I'm loving this plant size for day 3. Looks good. Wrap it up. So at the end of each episode, we want to get into a couple of the comments that you guys drop, all the questions. Figure this is a good way to do it. So today's question, why not trial in a much smaller space, like using tents? And very quickly, that's where a lot of research papers start, in tents. That's where a lot of first findings come about in small applications. We want to test as close to a commercial scale as possible because that is the majority of our Faven users are at commercial scale. So we want to test accordingly and not give skewed data based on trial size.
There's a lot of environmental constraints when you're using tents and being able to maintain that. And I think doing some of these papers or research in these smaller facilities don't necessarily give you, one, enough data sets of plants to be able to measure off of, and then two, an accurate representation of what's actually happening when you're doing these things. Usually a tent is 9 plants at most, unless you're really crushing them down in there. So just getting as much data as we possibly can to be able to show to you guys and share.
And that's all we have for today. So please like, subscribe, comment, any question you guys have. We are building this platform around you. We want to know what you want to know. So thank you from Tim and Alex today. That's all we got.